Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from whichever part of the world you're from. This is Kavita Ramchan from Life Success Coaching in Mauritius. So, we are talking about the chapter 4 in the book You Were Born Rich, Let Go and Let God. That's the chapter. That's the teaching that made the biggest difference for me because for the longest time I was like a control freak. I wanted to control everything in my life. Because I operate very much from the left brain, which is the IQ, and because I got a lot of good education. So, you grow up thinking that you need to know how to solve all the problems in your life. But this concept, which was always very confusing to me about God, like, where is God? You're saying, how is God creating such a world? Why should I go through all this? And when I understood this concept, it made the biggest difference in my life because it helped me come out of 7 years of depression. I cannot even tell you how your mind is directly connected to everything in your life. It is the part of you that actually creates your destiny, your mind. And we all have a phenomenal mind, a marvelous, miraculous mind, I would say. We just need to learn how to use it correctly to our advantage. And if we do, life becomes a celebration. All right. So let me continue reading. Today it's an interesting story, and I really like this story. I've shared it a few times before, and it's in this book. So let's read it. It's about the story of. Let me check the title. What it says here. Oops. David and Goliath. All right. So he says here, consider, for example, the biblical story of David and Goliath, which surely must rank as one of the greatest testaments ever written on the subject of faith. As you will recall, Goliath, the giant of Gath, came into the Israelite camp, boasting pompously and taunting the Israelites or Israelites, anything. You understood. To select a man to do battle with him. The Israelites, I think that's the better pronunciation, I think, naturally were terrified, and not surprisingly, none of them leaped forward to accept the challenge. You see, they were being challenged by a giant, okay? And he was challenging them, come fight with me and see, I'm like stronger than you and all that, but they didn't want to accept the challenge. Sometime later, however, when the Goliath returned to reiterate his challenge, David, an Israelite youth, overheard the giant's obnoxious boasting, and he stepped forward to pick up the gauntlet. He took the challenge, basically. Finally, after much pleading before his elders for the dubious honor of facing Goliath in battle, the youth was accorded the great privilege of going forth to do the battle. So here he says that the elderly people were doubtful and that their honor will go down if somebody went and faced Goliath. That was the reason nobody wanted to fight him, because of their honor, because of the doubts they were entertaining. Imagine that. But then he pleaded with them, let him go, and he was allowed that privilege to fight. All right. The elders insisted, however, that David clothe himself in heavy protective armor. They also gave him a sword with which to smite his powerful adversary. But David said, I'm not used to these things. I cannot fight with these handicaps. These are not my weapons. I have other weapons with which to fight the giant. So he stripped himself of all his armor and went into battle with no weapon other than a simple slingshot. You know that thing you pull back? And a few pebbles, which he had gathered from the nearby brook. When the giant leader of Philistines, protected as he was with armor from head to toe, armed with mighty weapons, and preceded by his shield bearer, saw the unarmed, unprotected Israelite youth approaching, he was infuriated. He said to David, "Come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air and to the beasts of the field." Young David, however, never one to be intimidated, answered the giant, saying, "Thou comest to me with a sword and with a spear and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied." That was his weapon, the name of the Lord. That was it. He had that belief without a single ounce of doubt that God was with him, and he was not afraid. This day will be the Lord, this day will the Lord deliver in thee into my hands, into mine hands. While the giant Goliath placed his faith in physical objects like armor, swords, and shields, David placed his solely in an unseen God. The result, the young Israelite shepherd defeated his far mightier foe with nothing save a single stone from his sling. David struck Goliath, and the giant fell lifeless to the ground. By accepting the principle, let go and let God, and believing that whatever must happen for you to reach your goal will happen, like David, you too will successfully conquer the giant in your life. That is, you will witness the physical manifestation of your image and in proper time. You see, the trouble with those of us who fail to achieve what we desire is not that we lack the ability to do so, but that we lack the faith implicit in the let go and let God principle, which dictates whatever is necessary for us to reach our goal will indeed occur. So, here, this is a very, very important story, I feel, because the David did not have anything. He was not afraid. That was the bottom line. He believed that God was with him. You have not seen fear, but you believe in it. Why? You have not seen God. Why? What makes you not want to believe in God? Both of them you cannot see, but you can feel, right? So if you understand this chapter, it can make this alone can make the biggest difference in your life. And I feel this is a very important chapter because most of the population is operating with the concept of God that doesn't really make sense to the youth of today. You know, the youth is lost. Oh, yes, big time. And I was that youth at one time. I'm now 48 years old. But I'm standing up for them because I know what it was like for me to go through those phases and not understand how people are talking about God. Every religion is saying that my God is right. So how many gods are there? And then everyone is saying there's only one God. Does it make sense? And do we realize the impact this is having on our children? I remember I could not put anything into my kids. I just told them just be good human beings and never hurt people's feelings. What I forgot to tell them, because this is the same concept my mother had told me, but what she also forgot to tell me was that the first person you need to not hurt is yourself. Because we are so programmed not to hurt other people, you end up hurting in yourself when you don't want to hurt other people's feelings. I'm sure so many of you will resonate with this, especially if you're a woman, because a lot of women have been taught to be submissive, you know, and that doesn't work. We are not born. There's no difference between girls and boys. It's just the gender. That's it. That's it. In fact, I would go to say that probably the woman is far more superior than the man. I'm not saying this to boast or anything, but the fact that she can carry a life in her womb and give birth to that, I think that's a miracle in itself. And why I'm saying that, because I went through it. I know what it is like to have a child to take care of who's your responsibility as if for the rest of your life. It's like having your heart walking outside of you. You know what that is? Like you're not in control anymore now. Anyway, there's so much to understand, there's so much to study, there's so much to learn. Today, I lost control over my mind and then I took it back. I took back control. That is huge. Why? Because your thoughts are creating your reality. Imagine when I lost control, what were my thoughts like? And when I took back control of my mind, I now know, and I know. It makes a big difference to know. Before I was an unconscious competent to the law of attraction. I used to attract everything, but I didn't know how I was doing it. I was attracting good and bad both. Whatever I would be afraid of, whatever I would want also. I used to think God is my best friend. He can hear me. But when I understood how this was happening, that became the game changer of my life. I was on fire from that point on to help everybody face their problems and come out of it victorious. Not just face, but face it with fear, just like David did. Because people tend to make their problems very big in their lives, right? But we can overcome them if we have that kind of faith, if we understand how the mind works. So thank you very, very much for your attention, and I will see you next Tuesday. Bye bye.